Welcome to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashley Hope, and this is your weekly check-in to get out of your head, into your body, and back into alignment with the version of you who's already living the vision. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into the show. Hey friends, welcome back to Evolving Into Her. My name is Ashley Hope. And this is a place where women come to shed who they've been settling for and fully step into who they actually are. And so we talk about identity, mindset, the real inner shifts that create lives that feel expansive, that feel juicy, that feel deeply fulfilling. And before we get into today's episode, if you're not already part of the practice, it's my free year-long journaling series. It is the perfect companion to everything we talk about in this podcast. This quarter, the theme is clarity. So we're working through that. And you can join anytime, whether you join this week or whether you join next month or 6 months from now. Anytime is a perfect time to join the practice. You can find the link to join in the show notes. Okay, so today we're starting something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So we're kicking off a brand new 3-part series, and we're calling it The Unbothered Woman. And we're talking about how she thinks, how she moves, and how she lives. So we're going to cover 9 of the most powerful habits of an unbothered woman. And we're going to cover 3 per episode, just so it's digestible. And I'm not coming at you with too much information. And today we're starting at the foundation. And we're covering how she thinks. And this one sets the tone for everything that's going to come after. And I just want to say up front, by the time we finish this series, I really want you to understand that being an unbothered woman, practicing healthy detachment, this isn't a personality trait, right? It's not that you either were born with it or you didn't. It's not an aesthetic. This is something you build. It's something you cultivate. It's something you practice. And it's something that is available to you. And I'm going to show you exactly how. But before we get into any of it, I need to tell you where this comes from for me first, because I'm not up here talking theory. This is my actual life. If y'all know me, baby, I'm the unbothered queen. All right. So grab something you can sip slow and let's get into the show. Okay, so let me take you back. Journey with me here. So there was a version of me, and honestly, she's still very much alive. Don't get it twisted. Okay, but this version of me, the whole energy was just F what people think. Like that was literally my mantra. For those of you who've been around for a while, y'all know F them people was my mantra, honestly. And I meant it with my whole chest. And it was not a defense mechanism. It wasn't me trying to protect myself from getting hurt. It was clarity, pure clarity. I genuinely did not and still don't have room in my life for the opinions of people who were not paying my bills, who were not building anything with me, who were not in my corner. If you were not contributing to my life in a real way, in a positive way, your opinion of me just did not register. It's as simple as that. And to be honest, I did get some pushback for that, especially because I grew up as an eldest daughter. And if you know, you know, there's this unspoken rule that comes with being the eldest daughter. You're supposed to hold everything together. You're expected to sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your needs. You put everyone else first. You shrink so other people can be comfortable. You pour until you're empty and then somehow find even more to give. And that programming runs so deep for so many women. And it just didn't resonate for me. Not even a little bit. Baby, I put myself first. I prioritized my own needs, my own peace, my own life. And people looked at me like something was wrong with me, called me selfish, like that was supposed to hurt my feelings. And it's so funny because now I watch women everywhere waking up to that same thing. Now it's a whole movement. Now everybody's talking about it, putting yourself first. But I want you to know I have been living this way for a long time. Not because it was trending, but because something deep in me always knew that my peace, my energy, my inner world was mine to protect. Nobody was going to do that for me. And then How can I pour into others without pouring into myself first? I am not self sacrificing. I'm not sacrificing my needs, my wants, my joy, my peace for anyone. So I've held this posture for quite some time. But then around 2017, 2018, I can't remember exactly when, something started to shift. And to be clear, what I believed didn't change, but there was a shift in how I held it, how I related. And it's because I started practicing non attachment in a real intentional way. And I will talk to people until I'm blue in the face about non attachment. But what that means, what it actually means in practice, is that I start to learn how to feel everything, all of it, the full range of being human without becoming it, without letting what I was feeling in a moment become the definition of who I was, without building my whole identity around my circumstances or what was happening in my life at any given time. And I think people misunderstand unbothered women and they assume that we don't feel things. They think we're cold or that something is disconnected in us or that we somehow numbed ourselves out. And I just want to be really honest with you. That is not it at all. I'm very sensitive. I'm a deeply emotional person. I feel things fully. You can probably tell just by listening to a few podcast episodes. I feel deeply. I cry, I grieve, I allow myself to be angry. I have been scared. I experience the full range just like everyone else. But I'm also very often the eye of the storm. And what I mean by that is when everything around me is swirling, there's chaos, there's uncertainty, there's other people's energy, there's hard seasons, I can stay steady inside of it. And it's not because I'm pretending it's not happening. It's not because I'm disconnected. It's not because I'm above it all, but because I've done the work to know who I am underneath all of it. My identity is not on the table every time life gets hard. And that's really the through line of everything I just shared with you. The F what people think energy, the non attachment practice, the ability to stay steady and rooted and grounded when everything around me is in motion. It all comes from the same place, knowing who I am, being so rooted in myself that other people's opinions, hard seasons, unexpected circumstances, none of it gets to decide who I am or how I move. That is what unbothered actually is. It's not an attitude, it is a core, solid foundation. And that is exactly what we're going to be building in this series. So here's how we're going to do this. Over the next 3 episodes, I'm going to break it down into how she thinks, how she moves, and how she lives. We're going to walk through 9 of the most powerful habits of an unbothered woman together. 3 habits per episode. And today we're starting with the foundation, how she thinks. And I want to be clear about what this is and what it's not. This is not 9 ways to pretend you do not care. This is not 9 ways to look unbothered on the internet while you actually spiraling inside. Okay, this is 9 real practiced embodied habits that create the kind of freedom you cannot fake and you cannot shortcut. So today we are in part 1, covering how she thinks. That's the inner foundation, that's the identity work. This is really the non attachment that makes every single other thing possible. Because if you don't have this part, nothing else is going to stick, nothing else is going to hold. Okay, so first habit of an unbothered woman, she feels everything and identifies with none of it. Baby, this is the foundation. So let me just reiterate that being unbothered does not mean you don't feel things. I cannot stress that enough. And there's this idea out there that the woman who has it together emotionally is the woman who somehow turned her feelings off, who doesn't let things touch her, who walks through life unbothered because she shut down the part of herself that feels. And I want to dismantle that completely because it's just not true. And honestly, it's not the goal either. The goal isn't to feel less. The goal is to stop letting what you feel become who you are, to become your identity. And there's a real difference between feeling grief and becoming grief. Oh, I could feel that just in the words, the weight of the words. There's a difference between feeling fear and deciding that fear is the most truthful thing in the room, that it must be telling you something real about what is or isn't possible for you. There's a difference between feeling hurt and building a whole story around that hurt, a whole identity, a whole way of seeing yourself in the world that you carry with you everywhere you go for years. Friend, emotions are information. That's all they are. They move through you. They're meant to move through you. They are not you. They are not your identity. They are not who you are. So the unbothered woman feels deeply, but she doesn't overstay inside any single feeling. She doesn't introduce herself to the world through her pain. Does that make sense? She doesn't make her wounds her personality. She doesn't build her entire self concept around whatever season she's in. She feels it, she honors it, and she allows it to move, and she remains herself the whole way through. Habit number two, the unbothered woman doesn't make an identity out of her circumstances. And we kind of touched on this in the last habit. And I want to expand on this one because it's a little sneaky and it'll get you without you even realizing that it's happening. Because when something hard hit, let's say you went through a breakup, your business is falling apart, you're experiencing some type of loss, or a season where just nothing seems to be working, there's such a human pull to let that thing become your story, to let it become the lens through which you see everything, including yourself, and to take what happened to you and slowly, without even meaning to, you start to reorganize your entire self concept around it. And I get it. When something's painful enough, when it's big enough, traumatic enough, it makes sense that it would feel all consuming for a while. And that's okay. That's human. We all experience it to some capacity. We're not going to bypass that. But there's a point where grieving something becomes becoming something. You following me? Where processing an experience becomes building your whole identity around it. And the unbothered woman knows where that line is. She draws that line in the sand and she does not overstep it. She knows that her circumstances aren't her identity, that what's happening around her isn't a verdict on who she is or what she's capable of, that a hard season is just a season, it's not a life sentence. And I want you to hear that. A hard season is a season. It's not the rest of your life. It's not your whole story. It's not who you are. It's not proof of something being permanently wrong with you. It's a chapter. It's not the whole book. And part of the guarantee of the human experience is that your circumstances are always going to be shifting, always. But your identity doesn't have to move every single time they do. So that steadiness, that rootedness, that groundedness in who you are, in your identity, that is the real work. Habit number three, the unbothered woman practices non attachment, okay? Non attachment to outcomes, to people's opinions, to the how, to the when, to her expectations, to how things are supposed to go. And I've gotten to a point in my journey, I practice non attachment to almost everything. I practice non attachment to my own ideas, to how my life is supposed to look, to my timeline, to my relationships, to money, to my business, to my identity. It's like that Frank Red hot sauce commercial. I put non attachment on everything. Okay. I pour it on everything. And we might actually do a whole episode about non attachment. It might have to be a series just so I can explain how I practice it in my life and how I tie my faith into it. And maybe that'll be helpful for someone. Because just talking about the concept sometimes, I notice people's eyes glaze over and they're like, girl, I hear you and it makes sense, but I don't understand. How do I do this? How do I be this? How do I experience this? How do I practice this in real time, in real life? Okay. So, habit number three, she practices non attachment. And I want to talk about how misunderstood this concept is because I encounter this all the time in my work. And I think people hear non attachment and they immediately go to this image of someone who just doesn't care about anything and someone floating through life with zero investment in what happens, zero desire, zero drive, like some detached, unbothered, and probably sociopathic robot, right? But that is not what non attachment is at all. So, non attachment is caring deeply about something while releasing your grip on exactly how it has to arrive. It's wanting something with your whole heart and doing the work for it without making your worth contingent on whether it shows up on your timeline in your preferred packaging, hello, somebody, or exactly the way that you pictured it. And so it's holding a vision while staying open to the path. Oh, baby, write that down. Holding the vision while staying open to the path. Those are two very different things. And when we're talking about people's opinions specifically, which honestly is where most of us have the most work to do, non attachment means you can hear what someone thinks about you. You can even fully receive it, and you can still walk away knowing exactly who you are. It doesn't shake the foundation. You could take the feedback without it becoming your truth. You can be misunderstood and be okay with that. Misunderstood by people you love, by people you respect, and you don't feel this desperate urgency to chase them down and correct the record and make sure they see you right, make sure they understand you. Because here's the thing, you know who you are. And that knowing doesn't require anyone else's agreement. And now I'll say this, non attachment is a practice. And I'm going to keep it real with you. Non attachment isn't a switch you flip one day and then you're done. Baby, it's a lifelong practice. I practice every day. And I'm probably 7 years in. I've written an ebook about it. I'll put the link in the show notes if you're interested in working through it. And I'm still learning and growing and evolving. I'm still dealing with triggers. I'm still having to self correct. I'm still having to practice self awareness and reining myself back in, talking myself off the metaphorical ledge sometimes. I'm still learning how to self soothe. So, this is something you return to. It's not something you learn and then you're just done with it. It's something you recommit to, especially when things feel uncertain, especially when the outcome that you want feels far away, especially when someone whose opinion you value says something that stings. But every time you return to it, it gets more natural. It becomes more second nature. It starts to become less of something you're working on and more of just who you are. So, friend, those are the first three habits of an unbothered woman and the foundation of how she thinks. She feels everything, just like you do. But the major difference is that she doesn't identify with any of it. She doesn't make an identity out of her circumstances. And she practices healthy non attachment. And I just want to say if any of this stirred something in you, if you heard something today that felt a little pull of recognition, that thing in your chest that says, yes, that's the part of you that already knows. That's her. That's your future self. That's the version of you we're calling forward in this series. So, do more research if you feel called to, read the books, continue listening to this podcast. You can get my guide to healthy non attachment in the show notes or on my website. And this is the inner work, the shifts nobody sees you making, the decisions you're making in between moments, in the privacy of your own mind, and the way you choose to respond to something instead of react. Nobody gives you a gold star for this work, but it changes everything. It can change the trajectory of your life. I am telling you, I experienced so much peace because of non attachment. I think it's a Buddhist saying that attachment is the root of all suffering. And that stuck with me. And I made it one of my life's missions to learn how to practice healthy detachment. And I'm at a place where everything could be going awry, everything could be going wrong, and I will be in my bubble of peace. It is peace beyond understanding, true peace. And it's my heart's desire that every woman who is listening to this, who can hear the sound of my voice, that you get to experience true peace in this lifetime. And not just experience it, but sustain it. All right, friend, next week we're getting into part 2. And this is how she moves. And we're going to be talking about the part that I think a lot of women need permission for. We're talking about what it actually looks like to put yourself first without spending the rest of the day feeling guilty about it. We're talking about what happens when you stop letting other people's behavior mean something about you. And we're talking about what it means to stop chasing. Stop chasing people, validation, outcomes, and what opens up in your life when you do. That episode is going to hit. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following the show. So when it drops, it shows up in your feed. And if this resonated with you today, please share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or you could leave me a rating on Spotify. Friend, thank you for spending yet another Tuesday with me. Make sure you're subscribed so that you catch part 2 of the Unbothered Woman series that is dropping next week. I am Ashley Hope, and until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming. I'm Ashley Hope, and you've been listening to Evolving into Her. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for choosing her, for choosing yourself. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming.